Hey guys, Man here, and let's talk about Star Citizen roles. So this is one of my favorite things to talk about here on the channel, so let's just jump right in. So, today's subject is going to be a very interesting one indeed. Today we are going to talk about non-pilot Star Citizen roles. So, as we've already covered, the role of a Marine pretty much is a non-pilot role, but we're going to talk more about roles on board the ships and things such like that. So, first of all, let's start off with one of the most important roles on a ship, the engineer. Engineer is a non-pilot role. The engineer will need to keep the ship running. The engineer will need to make running repairs aboard the vessel in case it takes damage. Also, ships will receive wear and tear just through normal flight, so if you have a large cargo vessel, you're going to need an engineer with you because you never know. Those engines that you have been using for such a long time might just malfunction on you at the worst possible time, and an engineer is the person you're gonna need to, send the power through a different conduit or something to get, more energy into the engines. A fuse might have died on the ship somewhere, and key systems might turn off, you never know. So an engineer basically keeps the ship alive. Their job is to keep everything running nice and smooth. So they're very important, and the bigger the ship, the more engineers you're going to need, because if you're on a warship, say for instance, like let's use the Polaris, because it's the most recent capital ship to come out, plus the fact it's one of my favorites, but let's just jump right in here. So, on the Polaris, you're going to need more than one engineer, and the reason I say this is because it's a war vessel and it's bound to take damage, and you're going to need to make running repairs and all sorts of things, and the more engineers you have, the more effective that, it's going to be, because these are real people that need to be running around, or NPCs, it's up to you. I'd recommend going with real engineers whenever possible, because, real people are really good at, doing tasks and fulfilling objectives and stuff like that. Because, us humans, we rock. But yeah, NPC crew will be okay, I guess. Like the standard non-pilot crew, you can hire them and whatnot. They will be on different varying degrees of skill to their payroll. But I did hear in a talk that Chris Roberts gave once where he said NPCs and things like that will get better over time at what they do, so you could have a relatively low cost NPC, but if you keep them on your ship and you keep paying them and stuff and look after them, they'll start to do better and better at their role to maybe where they'll be better than a more expensive NPC. So that's the role of the engineer. Now we're going to move on to a very important role as well, one just as important as the engineer. It's the radio operator. This is more important on warships because the radar operator guy is the person who detects other ships and other signals. You send out a ping. This is a relatively new information. I remember watching a couple of videos on the official Star Citizen website. Also, if anyone would like to see some of the sources of this information, check out the Star Citizen website and the RSI website. Oh, the Star Citizen YouTube page, sorry, and the RSI website. So, let's just go back here, and the radar operator is someone who will send out a ping, and they have to be good at their job because they can kill your radar if they do a bad job. They do it incorrectly, and they can fry the mechanism, causing, your radar to be down and you to be blind. They described it like submarines sending out sonar to detect one another and things like that. So a radar operator, the better job he does, the more information you'll receive on the enemy ship, meaning you can receive a very high detailed scan of the enemy ship from very far away if your radar operator does a great job. And that can include anything from scanning how many people are aboard that ship and what the ship has on board, and what its signature is and everything like that, to just detecting it as a blip. It all determines and all comes down to how skillful your radar operator is. So radar operator is an important one. Also, we have other crew roles like navigators. Navigators on large vessels are needed. Things like the Idris cannot fly without a navigator. It is a very important role on the larger classes of ship. They're the ones who plot a course and keep everything ticking over smoothly. Every role on board these ships is not going to be a humdrum task. It's going to be something that will be entertaining and require skill from one moment to the next. Because you never know, you might need to plot a new course, or the data might get lost when you come out of a jump point and you might need to replot that course. Or, in light of new information, you might need to change the course. All sorts of craziness. So yeah. What else is there? So we've covered radar operator, engineer, and we've covered the navigator. So let's move on to more basic crew roles now. So even on things on the Genesis Starliner, like, the flight attendants are going to need to manage the drinks machine, and you're going to need a medic on board. Same with a lot of ships, you're going to need a medic on board to, look after crew health and stuff like that, and passenger health at that matter if you're using a passenger transport vessel. So if you're, using a war vessel, yet again, you're going to need a medic, because in the event of, a combat situation, your ship does take damage, those engineers will be repairing the damage, and you're going to need medics to repair the people, because people no doubt will be taking damage. They said how damage will translate on vessels and stuff is, even on like the Retaliator and things like that, when a ship gets hit, the damage doesn't just, stay on the outside. If it's a penetrating hit and it hits something important, the energy from said damage will transfer into the inside of the ship, and there might be a small explosion on the inside. Like you get in the sci-fi movies where everything shakes and sparks fly and like electricity, shoots across the room or something. You might have a similar situation aboard your ship. You might have a crew member being literally blasted from one end of the corridor to the next, and a medic will be needed in such a situation. Especially with the whole, how your character will take damage and whatnot and eventually die. Permadeath. So yeah, medics are very important. Also, another role is a ship gunner. All vessels are going to require this, whether it be for trade or for combat. Just in case the worst should happen. Combat vessels more so are going to need more of them, but trade vessels, you will also need gunners, guys. Just remember this, because on board majority of ships, they're like larger classes of vessel anyway, there is turrets. And it is very important that you have someone in that gun, because you can't concentrate on, say, 4 ships at the exact same time. If any of you have played Vandal Swarm and had a lot of your team die, and then have it be just you as you're flying along, and you'll notice this, if you focus on a target, you're going to get focused down by 4 other targets, and you're going to take serious damage, if not die, before you take out your target. Same thing's true, you need gunners. Because with a gunner, they can focus on those other craft. And it's even more important, the bigger your ship gets, the more important this role becomes. Because on something like a Polaris, we'll go back to the Polaris here as an example again, because it's a good reference point, because it's somewhere in between the humongous capital ships and relatively medium-sized vessels. So let's talk about it quickly on how the gunners operate and things like that on such a large vessel. The gunners are going to be taking care of things like fighters, and all sorts of hazards and things like this. But it's very important to have them, because in the event of, say, you're on a mission, you're told you need to take out said ship here, you fly in, and you're ambushed by a bunch of fighters. Those gunners are going to be the only thing saving your butt, from certain annihilation. Because fighters and bombers, if not important, bombers are going to be coming after you. And the bigger the bomber, like the maneuverability on it's going to go down, and it's going to present an easier target for a gunner. And gunners will need to focus down these things. On a Starfarer is covered in guns. And it's necessarily not a combat vessel, and yet it's got all these turrets. The reason for that is pirates. Or even Vendul. If you have a bunch of these, if you have pirate opportunists coming towards your Starfarer, and, you're on the last leg of your run, and this is where you make all your profit, and all of a sudden you see a couple of buccaneers and a caterpillar descending upon you. You're going to put up a hell of a fight, to not lose your stuff at the very beginning. Sure, you can surrender it all, but why should you? If you have a bunch of really good gunners, and you have an engineer and a medic who know what they're doing, then you will be in business. Because you'll be able to take care of those ships, no problem. Because we all know the Starfarer is a pretty mean beast when it wants to be. It can mount some serious firepower. And if you equip your gunners' positions with good weapons, then you're going to put up one hell of a fight, and there's a chance you'll win. Because if the pirates lose more than what they can receive back, they'll go. They'll leave. They'll just run. If you, say, destroy a buccaneer, make another one run because it takes severe damage, and then damage the caterpillar, they're going to come after you. No way. They'll ditch the whole attempt and then fly away and try and, repair their vessels and make up for their losses on some other person. So gunners are very important. They're also a deterrent. So, if a fighter strays too close to your ship and maybe it's just, testing your defenses, and all your gunners open up after you've given the warning and they don't listen, you know, and they take damage, they're gonna leave and say, okay, it's not worth my time, this guy. But if you have no gunners, and they get close, and closer and closer, and they fire a warning shot, and, you know, you don't shoot back necessarily, then you're in trouble. It's like, you know, being a wounded deer in bear country. It's a bad day. So, let's also cover other roles aboard these vessels here. So far we've covered radar operator, gunner, and a few other various roles. Now we're going to need to cover some, you know, not so important roles, but every role aboard a ship is important to a degree, but let's say less important roles, but are good fun nonetheless. So, you know, you're going to have to, on a trade vessel, you're going to need people to, you know, check the cargo every once in a while, make sure everything's accounted for, and things like this. On a Banu merchantman, you can possibly have someone run the shop. You don't necessarily need to do it yourself. The pilot may not be the captain of the ship. There's another role, captain. The captains of larger vessels aren't going to be the pilots, but they are going to be the head. They are going to be the brain of the ship. So as the role of a captain, you have to know what you're doing. Basically, those of you out there who are org leaders or, you know, planning on being an org leader, if you have had any experience in the past with running a clan or a group, you'll know that, you know, keeping people on track and on point and focused is relatively easy if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, things are going to go very badly, you get people angry, people will leave, and that sort of stuff. So, same thing's true as the role of a captain. You have to basically keep your crew running to their maximum effectiveness without pushing them too hard. You have to treat your crew with respect, and you have to know their capabilities. You have to know what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. You can't expect to push your crew beyond their limits and expect them to, you know, perform above what they're capable to do in a situation that's pretty bleak. Because otherwise you're going to just stress them out and make them angry, and in the event of something bad happening, they won't talk to you again. So being a captain is a very high responsibility job. You can, if you want to be, you know, hire yourself out as a captain. You know, like you could, you know, wait at shipyards and stuff, and you have a good reputation. You can say, hey, you know, I'm a pretty decent captain if you need one aboard your ship. Even the Starfarer has a captain's position aboard it, and it has a special captain's quarters. Usually the captain is the owner of the ship. That's usually how it works. But, you know, how times are changing and things like this. We might have the pilot own the vessel and need a captain just to be able to, you know, manage and run the ship, basically. But yeah, a captain is the brains of the vessel. They're usually the one who says, right, this is where we need to go. This is where we, like, you know, this is when we need to be there. Or, you know, this is the target, this is what we have, this is what we need to do to achieve our goal. And a captain has to be versatile and, you know, able to change, you know, like his strategy on the fly. Because, as I said earlier, with ship maintenance and things like that, anything can happen. If a ship's been going around for a very long time, there's a chance modules might fail and, you know, an ambush might happen. The captain's going to need to be able to devise a plan there and then on the spot and say, right, this is what we need to do to get out of this situation, or this is what we need to do to win. You know what I mean? This is what we need to do to keep our crew alive, and this is what we need to do to keep the ship running. And everybody needs to follow the captain to the letter, because if the captain shows no signs of leadership and doesn't exactly, you know, help his crew, or he's a total dictator and doesn't treat his crew with respect, they're not going to follow those orders to the letter. They're going to be very reluctant to follow him, and they might do their own thing here and there, and that can cause a chain reaction. You might have an engineer saying to himself, well, you know, I can always repair that conduit after I've repaired, you know, maybe the radar. And then all of a sudden, the conduit, like, backfires, and, you know, everything turns off, including the radar. You see, being a captain is also something that's, you know, it's about respect as well. You're going to have to be very respectful to your crew, and that way they'll respect you. It's, you know, treat others how you wish to be treated. It's simple as that. You're just going to have good people skills. So, those are pretty much the basics of crew aboard the ship. There are, you know, other crew roles, you know, like I said, with the Genesis Starliner. And then on the Reclaimer, you have the role of the mechanical arm operator on the salvage vessel, where someone will man the arm. On things like the Endeavor, you'll have the guy who mans the satellite. You'll have the person who runs the hospital. The roles are endless that are non-pilot. Funnily enough, this game, yes, it is an amazing Starship game, but to be honest, it's a universe. Star Citizen is going to be a universe where anybody can do almost anything. And funnily enough, pilots are not going to be the primary role that's the most important all the time. There are other roles that are going to be way more important. Like you're going to have someone in a large fleet. Now this is true. In a large fleet aboard your, your lead ship or your command vessel, that captain has the highest point of responsibility because not only are they commanding their vessel, they have to command the entire battle. They have to command all the other captains aboard all their other ships and tell them, right guys, this is what we need to do. Focus target, focus the, let's say, Javelin class destroyer, get the bombers to move in from, Section Bravo or something. You're going to need to get a grid in your mind of how the battle's going to work. You're going to need to figure out what's going to happen here. So yeah, that's something that's very important. You're going to need basically a star commander, which is someone who will command the battlefield from their ship. Not only be able to run their ship, but be able to run the fight. So yeah, that's in large warfare scenarios. That's another non-pilot role and one of the most important roles, because they are going to be in charge of many, many, many characters' lives and resources. So yeah, not being the pilot isn't such a big deal. So if you're with a group of friends and you're arguing, who gets to be the pilot, and you're thinking to yourself, no, I want to be the pilot. No, I'm better at flying. The one guy who's not arguing, just think to yourself this: ask to be the captain, because that's the guy who gets the final say on what happens. So yeah. Thank you for joining me, folks. This has been another role video. I really do enjoy putting these videos out for you guys. We are growing on this channel exponentially, and it's amazing. I absolutely am blown away. You guys are great. You're all amazing. Thank you so much for subscribing and liking and commenting. I try to reply to as many comments as possible. I try to give you guys the sources of all this information. Whenever I see someone ask, I'll say, here you go, here's the source of this information. It does mean, though, I do have to backtrack and dig it all up again, because at the end of each video, I usually clear out all this stuff once I've, got it all ready on my PC, so I can prepare for the next video, because I make a video a day, and I'll usually make it early in the morning. Today, I kind of slept in because I was up till late, and I think we all know why, but yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for subscribing, and it's been a real pleasure making these videos for you guys, and I will continue to do so as long as you want them, and that's the way it's going to work here. So, you know the drill, Commanders. Fly safe, and I'll see you in the verse.